I don't even know why I'm doing this right now. It's like 2 in the morning, I can't sleep, and I'm just sitting here, zoning out, staring at my hands. Margaret's been gone for over a year now, and this house feels like a whole different place without her. My name's Walter Haynes. I'm 80 years old, and honestly, I think I've been totally botching my own life for most of it. That probably sounds like a weird thing to say, I get that, but hang tight for a second. When I was a kid, maybe 7, 8 years old, I used to say the word comfortable all wrong. Comfortable. Like I just mashed the whole thing together. My mom never called me out on it, my teachers eventually did, and I remember feeling so dumb. Not because I'd said it wrong, but because I'd been saying it that way for years and nobody had given me a heads up. I was thinking about that word again last Tuesday, just sitting in the kitchen. Sun doing that thing it does in the late afternoon, kind of slanting through the window all golden and slow, and it hit me. That's exactly what I did with my life. I kept saying it wrong for decades and nobody really clued me in, or maybe they did and I just wasn't picking up what they were putting down. I was a civil engineer, put in 38 years designing roads and bridges. Solid work, real work. I believed in it. Still do if I'm being straight with you. There's a bridge on the eastern edge of this county I designed back in 1987, and every time I drive over it, I'd feel something. A quiet kind of pride. Nothing flashy, just I made that. That holds. But I got it twisted somewhere along the way. I figured this is the whole deal. This is what a man's supposed to be. The work, the output, the thing you can point to and say, I built that. I didn't really get, not in my bones, not in any way that actually landed, that the bridge was gonna outlast everything I actually loved. Margaret and I were together for 51 years. She passed 14 months ago. 14 months and I think 9 days. I stopped keeping exact count because it was messing with my head in a way I didn't like. She used to say to me, not like she was mad about it, just saying it like it was the weather, just a plain fact. She'd say, Walter, you're always almost here, almost here. I heard her. I'd nod. I'd probably say something like, I know. Once the Henderson project wraps up, things will chill out, or whatever project it was that year. The Henderson project wrapped up. Things never chilled out, because deep down, I didn't actually want them to chill out. I wanted to want to slow down, which is a whole different ballgame, and I didn't clock that difference until there was nothing I could do about it. There was this one evening, Claire, my daughter, she was maybe 9, maybe 10. She came into my study while I was grinding away at something. She had a piece of paper. She had drawn something on it. A house, I think, with a big tree out front and little stick figures standing around outside. She wanted to show me. I said, just give me a minute, sweetheart. She stood there for a little while. I could feel her just standing there, waiting. And then she bounced, quiet, the way kids do when they've figured out not to push. I finished up maybe 20 minutes later, went to find her. She was in her room, drawing face down on the bed, watching something on TV. I asked if I could see it. She showed me. I said it was great. She said, thanks, Dad. And that was that. That was the whole thing. I've replayed that evening more times than I can count. Not exactly guilt. Guilt's too neat a word for what it is. It's messier than that. It's understanding that the moment was asking something from me and I showed up with the wrong thing, and the moment just moved on without me, and it never came back as exactly itself again. Claire's 44 now. We talk most Sundays. She's good to me, real good, especially since her mom died. She handles things, checks in, shows up when it matters, but I find myself wondering sometimes if she stopped bringing me her drawings way before she ever stopped drawing them. I've been trying to figure out when exactly I learned how to be somewhere else while standing completely still. I don't think I came out of the gate that way. I've got early memories before all the habits dug themselves in of being fully locked into things. Chasing fireflies in a glass jar with my brother on summer nights. The way time moved back then, thick and slow almost, like you could stretch 1 hour out forever if you wanted to. At some point, that just pieced out. I think what went down is that I got good at stuff. And when you get good at stuff, people start depending on you. And when people depend on you, you start mixing up being needed with being present. Those aren't the same thing at all, man. Being needed just means you're useful. Presence is something else. Something I couldn't have put into words at 40 or 50 or 60. I'm not sure I can nail it down even now, but I can feel where it used to be missing. That's the thing about catching on too late. You don't get it like some big idea. You get it like a hole, a gap where something should have been. My dad was a quiet dude. Not cold, just quiet. There's a difference, even though it took me forever to see it. He worked in a textile mill his whole life, 6 days a week for most of my growing up years. He'd come home wiped out in a way that lived all the way through him. And he didn't do a lot of talking at dinner. He'd eat, he'd sit with the paper afterward, he'd turn in early. When I was young, I told myself I was gonna be different. And I was different in some ways. I talked more, I thought I was engaged, asked questions at the dinner table, coached Claire's soccer team for a couple of seasons when she was 11. I was present, I kept telling myself. But looking back now, I think I was just running a louder version of the same distance my old man kept. He sat behind his silence. I sat behind my busyness. Different walls, same room. There's something that happened about 6 years before Margaret died that I've never said out loud, not to anyone. We went to Portugal. We'd been talking about going for 20 years, and we finally pulled the trigger. And it was beautiful, genuinely, quietly beautiful the way old places are, where the stone itself feels like it's been carrying time for centuries. We were at dinner one evening, tiny little restaurant. Nobody around us spoke a lick of English. And Margaret looked at me across the table, just looked at me that way she had sometimes. And she said, "I think this might be the first time I've had you all to myself in a very long time." She wasn't salty about it. That's the part that stays with me. There was no shade in it, just something that sounded like relief. And underneath the relief, something else, something I didn't quite have the nerve to look at straight on. I said, "Well, here I am." She smiled. We had a real nice dinner. The wine was something else. We walked back to the hotel slow, and she held onto my arm the way she'd started doing when her hip was acting up. And I told myself that night, this is what counts. We made it here. We're doing it. I didn't ask myself why it had taken us 20 years to get to Portugal. Didn't ask what she'd been sitting with all that time while I was out building bridges that were going to outlast both of us. I just had the wine and felt thankful and figured that was enough. She got sick about 3 years after that trip. Not fast, not slow, the kind of thing that fakes you out into thinking you've got more runway than you do. I showed up during that time. I want to say that straight up because it's true. I was there, drove her to every appointment, sat in every waiting room, held her hand through the rough nights, cooked, badly, but I cooked. I was there, and still. In the last few weeks, she said something I keep circling back to. She was real tired by then. We were lying next to each other in the dark the way we had for 50 years. And she said, barely above a whisper, almost like she was talking to herself, "I wonder what you were thinking about all those years." I could never quite figure it out. She wasn't really asking. She was just saying something she'd been holding on to for a long time and needed somewhere to put it down. I didn't answer. I didn't have anything to give her. I put my hand on hers. We lay there in the dark. Eventually, she fell asleep. I was wide awake for a long time after that. I've been going through her things slow. Not because it's rough, I mean, it is, but that's not why. I just want to do it right. She was careful with things. She deserved somebody being careful with hers. I found a journal last month. Small thing, green cover. Had no idea she kept one. I almost didn't crack it open. Felt like it wasn't mine to read. And it wasn't, really. But then I thought, she's gone. And maybe she'd want me to finally get it. Or maybe she'd left it somewhere I'd find it on purpose, because some part of her needed me to understand before I checked out too. I don't know. I'm never gonna know. I read through parts of it. Not all of it. Couldn't hang with all of it. But there was one entry, no date, just sitting there in the middle of the book that said, "I think he loves me the way you love a house. He fixes what breaks. He keeps things running. but I don't think he ever just sat in me and felt lucky. I put the journal down and went for a walk. It was cold outside. I just walked for about 40 minutes with no destination, no plan, just moving. She wasn't off base. That's the thing, she was dead on. And the part that really gets me isn't that she felt it. The part that wrecks me is that she wrote it down, kept it to herself, and stayed. 51 years. She stayed anyway, because she loved me in a way I never quite knew how to take in all the way. And I think some piece of me always knew that, and I let it ride anyway, because it was easier than doing the work of actually sitting still long enough to be somebody's person, for real, all the way. For a long time, I told myself that time was the problem, that I would have been different if I'd just had more of it, less on my plate, earlier retirement, more free evenings. But I don't buy that anymore. Time was never the issue. I had evenings, I had weekends, I had a whole month in Portugal. I had 51 years of nights lying next to a woman who wasn't asking for anything fancy. She just wanted me to actually show up, all the way. The real problem was that I didn't know how to be inside the time I had. I knew how to fill it. Filling and being inside something, those are totally different things. Filling is what you do when you're low-key scared of what the quiet might ask you to look at. And I was scared. I think I've been scared for most of my adult life. Nothing you could name specifically, just this low hum of fear about being completely, fully in something that could get taken away from you. If I stayed a little bit sideways from it all, I figured it'd hurt less when it left. That was my whole logic. Sitting underneath everything, that was the deal I'd made with myself. And it's the most expensive mistake I ever made, hands down. Claire came by last Sunday, brought soup. She knows I'm hopeless in the kitchen. We sat at the table and just talked for a couple hours. And at some point, she started saying something about her own marriage. Something small, a low-key frustration with her husband. That same kind of distance, that same almost here thing. And I wanted to say something. I wanted to say, I know exactly what you're talking about. I lived inside that distance for 50 years, but I couldn't figure out how to say it without making the whole thing about me. So I just listened, really listened. Didn't jump in, didn't fix it, didn't try to spin it into something useful. And that felt right, actually. More right than anything I might have said. Maybe that's the only thing I'm still getting the hang of. That sometimes the realest thing you can do for someone is just stay in the room and let the moment be theirs. I sit out back in the mornings now. There's a wooden chair that Margaret picked up at some flea market back in 2003. She refinished it herself, did the whole thing by hand. It's held up better than most stuff around here. I sit in that chair, drink my coffee, and that's it. That's the whole thing. Not being productive, not figuring anything out, not working towards something, just there. And here's the wild part. It's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. No joke. Just sitting still without a reason, without something to show for it at the end. But some mornings, not every morning, but something in me just settles. In the chest, in the shoulders, somewhere deep. And for a few minutes, I actually feel like I'm inside my own life. Not watching it from the outside, not managing it, actually in it, 80 years old. And that's brand new for me. That is a genuinely brand new feeling. I'm not dropping any wisdom here. I'm not trying to school anybody. I just thought maybe if I said this out loud into the air, it means something. Maybe just to me. Maybe just so it existed somewhere outside my own head for once. Claire's chair is still out there, right next to mine. Some mornings I talk to it. She would have laughed at that, I think. Probably would have called me a goofball. And then she would have sat down right next to me. If any piece of this stuck with you, just stayed with you somewhere quiet, I'd be glad to know. Not because I need anything from you, just because it's a strange thing, saying all of this out loud into nothing. It helps a little thinking maybe somebody out there caught it. That's all I got.